Welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short. Glad to have you along for the discussion today. Today we're talking about the internet. We're talking about raising the question, is the internet too distracting? Is it just simply consuming too much of our time, our mental energy? Is it causing too much stress? Is it causing too much worry? Is it too much information for our minds in this modern age? This is something that really is talked about more and more these days, especially in respect to children. Now, when I was growing up in the day before the internet, we're talking before 2000, sometimes in the 90s, I didn't have to worry about the internet. I didn't have to think about the internet. I didn't have to check email on the internet or check messages on the internet, text messages, or I didn't watch YouTube videos on the internet. I didn't have to turn to it at every waking hour like a lot of kids do today. And so I had the benefit of being raised and growing up in an environment where the internet was just not a factor. And so I wasn't distracted by it. Now, there are disadvantages to that because, for example, one of the great benefits of the internet is that you can ask questions and you can get information and you don't have to wait and you don't have to waste time wading through volumes and volumes in the library or calling this person and calling that person and calling another person and tracking down answers to questions that you have. Now, I recently went through this list of things because I'm always, constantly, as a Christian, I'm always asking the question, do I really need the internet? And do I need internet service at my home? Because if I don't have it, then I'm not distracted by it. But if I don't have it, if I do have it, there are all kinds of benefits. So I just recently went down a list of benefits of the internet in my home. And I'm not talking about totally doing away with the internet, but having it at your home, not going to some other place that has it. Like you can always go to a Starbucks, get a coffee, sit down, and use the internet at a Starbucks. You can also go to all kinds of restaurants, have it more and more. Almost every place that you visit will have the internet. If you go into Walmart, they have the internet. Almost every big corporation or big business that you might go into in the modern society will have the internet. So it's not a question of not having access to the internet. It's about having direct, immediate, convenient access in your home. So I perennially, I ask that question, do I need internet at my home? Do I need to be 24/7 hooked or linked to the web? And so in order to evaluate that, I have to list what are the benefits of having the internet in the home, immediate 24/7 access to the internet. And I went down a list, and included in that list is, for example, it's very convenient in paying bills. It's just great to be able to not have to go to that business and give them a check for the amount. Utilities, you can pay online, your electric, gas. You can pay for your payments if you have a car payment or if you have a house payment, if you have insurance payments, just endless list of items that you can pay online. That's really a great benefit of the internet. Another great benefit of the internet is that you can ask questions if you want to know when is the next daylight savings change, or when is the day that it changes in the fall? When is it change in the spring? You could ask the internet the question, and all of a sudden an answer pops up, and you don't have to go scratching your head and wondering for days and days and days. You can basically get any factual question answered on the internet as far as the knowledge of that area is concerned. I mean, we can't ask questions like, are there aliens out there? And the internet doesn't give you that answer because no one knows that answer. The internet has to have someone input an answer in. But there's a drawback for that because also the answers that you get may not be accurate. They may not be valid. And who knows who put the answer in. So there are some pros and cons even in these benefits. But you can ask it questions and get answers. Another thing very helpful is you can look up phone numbers of businesses. If you don't know what the phone number is of the local garage down the street that you wanted to take your car in and have them diagnose it if there's a problem, then you can jump online and find the answer to that and find their telephone number. So it's very addresses too. If you forgot where a business is, where you need to go, you can ask the internet and it'll pop up there and it'll actually help you find the directions there with Google Maps. You can actually program the address in and then go and follow the Google Maps until you get there. So it's a GPS. It's a direction finder. So that's really, really helpful to have the internet. I've done that on major trips. I've used the computer in my home, printed out the directions, and then just went about driving across country using the Google Maps and the directions that I get off the internet and print it out and take it on the trip with me along with the map. A lot of people don't even use maps anymore because of the internet. There are all kinds of video programming on YouTube. I basically exist without a cable television service. So I don't pay every month for a cable TV. I just simply use YouTube and a few other Amazon Fire apps to watch, for example, sports and different things. So I'm basically all internet on my TV programming for movies and everything else. So I save a lot of money by going just through the internet and not through cable TV. And that's an important benefit. So you just keep going down the list of the benefits. And of course, there's news. You can look up news, what's happening here and there, commentary, and you can read the latest and actually watch news broadcasts. You just keep going on down the list. There's definitely a huge benefit for having the internet in your home. But the question is the internet too distracting? Because you have to remember that for vast majority of human history, people didn't have the internet. And so they had to do things by hand, or they had to do things and wait. They had to wait for information. They had to go to the library and dig into the sources, the primary sources or secondary sources. They had to get their information. They had to work for it. They had to claw and scratch and dig to try to find information. And for any topic, for example, one of the benefits today that I use quite often is that if I have to do a car repair and if say the water pump in my car goes bad, well, I'll try to fix that myself and save a bundle of money instead of taking it to the garage. And so how do you fix it? I'm not a professional mechanic. I do have tools. And so over the years, I've accumulated tools. And so I go to the internet and I find instructional videos on how to remove and replace a water pump. And so I'll follow those, and that will really, really help me. I can do repairs that would normally cost $500, $1,000, $2,000. Not the water pump. That would only cost a few $100s to replace. But other things I've done that I basically follow the internet instructions on YouTube videos, and that has helped me. But again, the question is, are we distracted too much by the internet? Because you consider the news events that pop up, Normally, in the old days, you would read about it in the newspaper and you would hear about what's happening. For example, right now in the United States and actually around the world, they're following it. We have this Kyle Rittenhouse, Kenosha, Wisconsin murder trial where this young man was out protecting property during one of these protest riots that occurred in 2020. And in the midst of all of that, in self-defense, he had to shoot three people, and 2 people died at his hand. And he's on trial now, whether this was self-defense or whether it was murder. So it's very riveting, and the temptation is to consume a lot of that content and stay late into the night looking at analysts and commentary on this trial because it's so compelling. Well, that's a distraction. Before the day of the internet, you couldn't have this access 24/7 to information about things like the trial or what's going on in Washington. We simply would not know all of the information that was happening in Washington, D.C. and the government and the new regulations and bills and laws that are being passed and the political drama of politicians talking and battling it out in Washington, D.C. and local and state capitals. We wouldn't know all of this, but now we know everything. In fact, we probably know too much. And so we're exposed to so much information that you would think that people would get burned out and they say, I can't take any more, I just can't watch anymore. Well, no, the opposite effect happens. When you get more information, then you crave more information. I want more information. I want to learn more about this. And so we're sucked in. That's what happened, for example, during the 2020 elections, presidential elections. There was all this run-up to the election, and it was drawing people to consume hours and hours of content, news content on the internet. And then after the election, the drama usually dies down and you can say, great, now I don't have to spend my time and my hours wasted away at figuring out who's going to win the election. But not last year. What happened in 2020 was there was more drama after the election because of the irregularities of the election and the allegations of voter fraud, and the drama that took place after the election was even more intense than before the election. So we spent not just the lead-up time to the election, but then we spent all of November, all of December, even on into January with this political drama, and this draws people in to the internet even more. So the question is, are we overly saturated with information? Are we overly distracted? And how does that affect our spiritual relationship with God? How does that affect our Christian life when we are so distracted? Because it actually brings up the whole topic, and I've talked about this other times, and that is the internet as an idol. Are we giving too much of our time, attention, and energy to the internet in its various forms, whether it's entertainment on the internet, whether it's news and information on the internet, whether it's shopping on the internet? I didn't mention that in my long list of things that you can do on the internet, but shopping is a big, big thing, especially in the winter months around Christmas time. It's so easy to do the shopping on the internet. You just hit the click button and you can order something on Amazon or eBay, and it comes a few days later to your door. Or you can order things now. You can order things at Walmart and then go to the store and they come and bring the items out, the grocery items especially. And so shopping online is a big thing. But again, there it is. It draws us to stare at a screen. We're before our computer, and that's not even talking about the smartphone phenomenon. And this is where it's very dangerous with young kids because, again, like I mentioned, when I was a kid growing up, I didn't have the internet to distract me. I could just be a kid. If I wanted to play with toys, I had to actually just play with a physical toy. Nowadays, they're online games, video games, and it's especially hard for teenagers because they are naturally curious, and so they're going to go online, and then there's all kinds of bad things that they can find online. There's pornography. There is inappropriate conversations. They can find a lot of bad, evil, sinful ideas and examples online, run into bad people online, teenagers. And so there's been a lot of commentary in the Christian community about not getting your young child a smartphone. And that makes a lot of sense. Just don't get them a smartphone. Don't give them a smartphone. Don't take one of these and say to your child, I'm going to give you one of these, and I want you to act responsibly toward it, and don't do anything or look up anything or watch anything that would be inappropriate. That's crazy. Kids don't have that self-discipline to even regulate their behavior. And probably most adults don't have that kind of self-discipline. So actually using one of these requires, as a prerequisite, a lot of self-discipline, because there are all kinds of temptations on here. We read a lot about, for example, junior high girls taking pictures of themselves nude and showing it to boys to get the attention of boys. This is a terrible tool in the hands of an irresponsible person. And most children, of course, and young people are irresponsible. That's just that part of life that everyone has gone through. They make bad choices. They don't have the capacity all the time to think through things, and they act on impulse, and so they make bad choices, and they get themselves into trouble with the internet. So why would you hand one of these over to a child or a young person and just say, go have at it and be responsible? You're asking the impossible for them. And so parents have to really use a lot of wisdom and say, we're not going to give our child a smartphone. We're going to maybe, at most, we'll give them a flip phone so that we can talk to them, or we can reach them, or they can reach us at any time when they're out of the house. But a smartphone, no, that doesn't make any sense. And also a computer with internet access in their bedroom isn't necessarily a good idea. And yet schools now, high schools and junior high and even grade schools, are requiring kids to have computers with internet to do schoolwork. So if you're going to require kids to be able to get on the internet, you're setting them up for failure in spending too much time on the internet, looking at the wrong things on the internet, and it's like a recipe for disaster. So the internet is a powerful tool. There's no question about it. There is so much of a benefit for having internet access in your home, but there's also a downside to that, and we have to think through those downsides. Like I said before, I'm constantly thinking every year, year after year, I'm evaluating and saying, do I really need to have this internet in the home? Do I really need to bring something into the home that will distract me? Now, in my own life, I think of myself as a disciplined person. I think of myself as someone who has a degree of self-control, but it bothers me that, for example, I can be looking at one of the other benefits of the internet, especially for a Christian minister or a pastor, a Christian leader, author, speaker, is that when you have a verse that you need to insert into a message, and you don't know the reference, you can ask Google and you can quote the verse, and it will automatically spit out the chapter and verse, book, chapter, and verse right there. So it's a great aid for ministry in that you can, even if you remember part of the verse and you can quote part of it, or you can quote it roughly or generally, Google can actually go to the exact verse that you're trying to come up with and tell you what the chapter and verse is. So it's really great in that sense. But on the other side, once you go on the internet to maybe Google that or look it up, then the problem becomes, because then you see some news item, you see the latest, for example, on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and so, oh, I wonder what's happening. And it is an important trial. It is an important topic because it has worldview implications, and it talks about the right to self-defense. And as Christians, we know that in the Bible it talks about the right of self-defense. You're not charged with murder for defending your own person or your family or even your property. So there are rules that we have in the Western civilizations in the United States that have come from the Bible. One of them is the law of self-defense. And so it's important that we get that right in our society and not charge someone who was simply defending himself, not charge him with first-degree murder. So you're interested as a Christian, and so you go and you further read about it, and then you spend maybe 15 minutes or even a half an hour reading about it, and there you go. You've been distracted. And that can happen every single day. Once you're on the internet, it's designed, and you can talk to the architects of the internet, you can talk to Google, you can talk to the Facebook designers. They intentionally design your interactions with their platform to be addictive and to try to draw you in deeper and to get you more engaged with their platform. Because for them, that means more money. But for people, everyday people, that means wasted time, distraction. And we really don't have long-term studies that say what the effect of the internet really is on the human mind. We don't have a lot of studies. There are people who are studying these things, but really it's only been around for a few decades, and there aren't long-term studies that show the internet actually has this effect on people or that effect on people. I would guess, and I haven't done any research and I can't verify this, but I would guess that it leads people to have shorter attention spans, simply because you can go from one topic and click on another topic completely different. Oh, and you can chase these interests. And that's one of the temptations, is that we find ourselves in pursuit of what is interesting, and we just are being led around the internet by these little links that we can click on. And there are a lot of interesting things in the world, and you can spend your whole day surfing the web and engaging with that content and really learning a lot of stuff, but really being distracted from what you're trying to do. And so you really have to have a lot of self-control and discipline, which I do not claim that I have a lot of self-control. I do believe I do exercise a measure of self-control, and I try to discipline myself from not wasting too much time on the internet, but still I am bothered by the fact that I do waste time. There are times when I've spent an hour doing some kind of reading on the internet, and I thought to myself, gee, I didn't need to do that. I didn't have to get into that topic. But again, one of the benefits of the internet is that you can do research on a topic. If you, for example, I was reading in the One Year Bible, the physical One Year Bible. I know everything is now online. You can have an online Bible. A lot of people, when they go to church, they bring their smartphones and then they look up the scriptures on their phone, and then they do that with reading the Bible, the online One Year Bible. But I actually physically read a book, the One Year Bible, the Bible, and you can be distracted, but you can also use the internet to look up topics. For example, if you're reading in the book of Hebrews in the New Testament, and this person called Melchizedek comes up, he's a very mysterious person. The Bible says he has beginning, without end, without genealogy. And so you say, who is this person Melchizedek? So you want to read up on it. One of the benefits of the internet is you can go online and there is a ton of information on almost any biblical topic. There are conversations, there are videos, there are podcasts. And that's one of the great benefits of the internet in the home. And one of the reasons why I've kept it is because I can go into deep research and study on topics like Melchizedek in the Bible. And I can listen to discussions with some very top-level scholars in the Christian faith. I can go almost, in a sense, sit in on a seminary classroom. Some of the seminaries even have classes online or clips of their classes, and you can hear what some of the leading thinkers in Christianity, theologians, are saying about, for example, a topic like Melchizedek. And you can, or if you wanted to find out who the author of Hebrews is, and many people believe it's the Apostle Paul, because I just got finished reading the book of Hebrews in the One Year Bible, and at the end of the book, there's a reference to Timothy. Well, where do we hear a lot about Timothy? We hear a lot about Timothy in the New Testament from Paul, the apostle, in his writings. So here is someone in the book of Hebrews at the end of the book talking about Timothy. So sounds a lot like Paul. But again, the style of the book is not Paul's style. So maybe some scribe or some companion of Paul wrote the book using Paul and his words, or they were the scribe and Paul was dictating a letter and the person put it in a more classical Greek style. All of these are possibilities, but see, you can go online on the internet and find a lot of information about Melchizedek, or you can find out on the topic of who wrote the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. And I really enjoy being able to go to a podcast of a professor of a seminary or a Christian scholar and hearing them not just talk for 5 minutes like you would on, say, television, network television, or some TV show. They would have a 5-minute segment or a 10-minute segment. This person can go on for hours talking about a topic. You can really go in depth in podcasting and lectures and all kinds of things. And you can basically study to your heart's content and go as deep into a subject as you want on the internet. That's one of the blessings. But again, the distraction has to be faced. We are a very distracted people today. And what the cost of that distraction is it's making our attention span very low. And it's also hurting people in their ability to discuss things over a period of time because they're used to these quick internet clips and different topics that jump up and relinking to another source and so forth. And it can create a scatterbrained individual. They know a lot of superficial, surface level stuff, but they don't know very much in depth. So the message is be very careful with the internet. Be careful not to be distracted and to use it wisely and realize it is a very potentially dangerous tool that can actually be an idol in our lives and draw and suck the life out of our lives if we let it go without check. So beware of that as a Christian and be careful with it. We'll see you back next week at another edition. God bless.